here we are. This is coming from MoneyWise by way of Yahoo Finance, and the title reads, "New home buyers would get tons of cash under plans from Biden and his party." And they promise it's a 5-minute read. Let's see what we do here. One of President Joe Biden's campaign's proposals was a $15,000 incentive to help first-time home buyers achieve the American dream. His Democratic Party allies have taken that proposal and are running with it. Lawmakers recently introduced a pair of bills that could result in as much as $25,000 in down payment assistance and a new tax credit of up to $15,000. So if you're still waiting on the sidelines of the housing market, these new proposals could provide the help you need to get in the game and take advantage of mortgage rates that are still among the lowest in history. One of the bills, which sponsors are calling the Down Payment Toward Equity Act of 2021, would create a grant program allowing states to provide first-timers with cash for down payments, closing costs or fees that result in lower mortgage rates. Malcolm Glenn, spokesman for the online mortgage lender Better, tells MoneyWise that if enacted in its current form, the legislation would make 10% of the owner's renters, about 4.37 million people, eligible for down payment assistance. To qualify, individuals must meet income requirements and be first-generation home buyers, meaning anyone who has either never owned their home or who owned a home once but lost it due to financial distress, including foreclosure. The bill, which was introduced last month, provides eligible home buyers with up to $20,000 in assistance or as much as $25,000 if the buyer qualifies as socially or economically disadvantaged. An earlier draft of the proposal provided up to $15,000 in down payment assistance, the amount Biden originally pitched. For most Americans, that's a substantial amount of money. It would take the typical renter 14 years to save a down payment of that size, based on calculations from Moody's Analytics. The amount you'll be required to pay back depends on how long you own your first home. If for some reason you aren't living in it within a year of purchase, you'll have to reimburse the full amount the government floated you. Otherwise, the amount you're required to pay back falls by 20% every year. Occupy your home for 5 years and you and the program can go your separate ways. If the bill passes and you start home shopping, one important step will be making sure your credit score is as high as possible. The lower your score, the higher the mortgage rate you'll be asked to pay. So check your credit score for free and work on strengthening it before you apply for a loan. Okay, and then get a lower tax bill or money back. The second bill, introduced in late April and dubbed the First Time Homebuyer Act, would provide a tax credit of up to 10% of a homeowner's purchase price or home's purchase price, or as much as $15,000 to first-timers.
So I want to
The
pause
tax
there
credit is refundable, meaning if the amount is larger than what you owe on your taxes, you'll receive a refund for the difference. The refundable tax credit proposed in the bill would increase homeownership among low and moderate income Americans, especially those from marginalized communities with historically low homeownership rates, says Sunny Shah, president of the National Association of Housing and Redevelopment Officials. To access the tax credit, you won't necessarily need to be a first-time buyer. You'll be eligible if you haven't owned or bought a home in the past 3 years. The proposal is a little more mathy than the other one. To be eligible, you can't make more than 160% of your area's median income. That means if you live in, say, Orlando, Florida, where the median income is about $42,000, you won't be able to participate if you make more than $67,200. Also, the price you pay for your home can't be more than 110% of the area's median purchase price. Similar to the other bill, if you want to take advantage of the proposed tax credit, you'll need to use the home you buy as your primary residence for at least 4 years. Otherwise, you'll be taxed as a way for government to recover part of the credit that was provided. If the legislation passes, borrowers will be able to claim the credit for any primary residences purchased after December 31st, 2020. And it says here, don't wait for Washington. With the housing market as frothy as it is, thanks to historically low mortgage rates and the pandemic positive influence on home buying, properties are being snapped up in a matter of weeks, if not days, once they're listed. In this fast-paced environment, waiting for Congress to hammer out a solution for first-time homebuyers could leave you on the outside looking in while home prices continue to rise. One strategy you can use to free up some much-needed cash flow is to consolidate your various debts. Taking out a single loan to pay off multiple creditors can significantly reduce the amount of interest you're paying every month. Use that money to strengthen your down payment instead. If student loan debt is limiting your buying power, you may be able to refinance your student loans and slash your monthly payments, but put that newfound cash toward your closing costs. And if it is your earnings that need a boost, there is a simple, affordable way to generate real returns in the stock market by investing nothing more than your spare change. Use this money for the expensive bottle of wine you'll buy to celebrate closing day. All right. And I'm not reading all the comments, but certainly this brought a lot of attention. 427 comments. Wow, Darren.
Yeah.
Definitely a good topic for a lot of people.
Sure. A lot to unpack there. So it is multiple bills in conversation at this point. Nothing's solidified. But there's some real meat on the bone here. Up to 10% for our area based on prices. It's going to cap out. I think almost everyone would hit that 15,000 cap on their up to 10%. A couple of qualifying elements, median income up to 160%. I'm glad to see them doing it in that way because often in bigger cities, if you just have a flat amount, then our higher price points make you uneligible. So combination of median income in the area, 160%, and median value, 110%. So it's relative to where you live, where you're buying, and all that's great. All that makes it, anybody, wherever you live, it gives you the same chance to utilize this program. You'll just get a lesser percentage in a bigger city because it's a higher price. You'll cap out at that 15, where maybe somewhere else you might not get all 15 to be at 10%. Clearly owner occupied, purpose there is to get people into houses. It's not about investments. The one thing that really stood out to me there too, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of details to be ironed out, and we'll start seeing more of this in the future, but retroactive, that was like, and it's not to say that will go through in that way if it does go through, but that one was saying retroactive to December 31, 2020, meaning that you don't have to wait for this. You can start looking now. And if something like this does go through and that sticks, then you'll still benefit. You'll still get the credit when you file taxes next year. And I know another article I had read a week or two ago was talking about actually making the funds available through the escrow process, not just as a tax credit. Now, that's definitely a more complicated component, could delay the closing, which would make things more difficult to get your offer accepted potentially. But if something like that comes back into play, even that'd be amazing. People could actually, the money would come through escrow where you didn't have to show up, or maybe it's the lender shows it as a credit towards your down payment. The lender's getting it from the government on the back end, and they work out all that stuff. So maybe it could happen quickly without a slowdown.
Now, what do you think? So for people that are in Los Angeles, they might frown on this as, well, it's not considering the high prices of LA, but what do you say to that?
Well, so, in reading it, Joe, when we talked about this article together, we basically, the first thought is, oh, you're looking to get this as your entire down payment. Well, it's not. Look, in reality, we've sold a couple homes recently that were $500,000 or less. Mm-hmm. And this could be, minimum down payment loan, 3.5% FHA. That could be your entire down payment if you can get an offer accepted for that amount. So it could qualify. Yeah. You'd still need closing costs. But for other people, you might be putting 10% down. It still is just a kicker. That's an additional $15K. So it doesn't have to be your entire down payment.
So that's the thing, right? You've got a down payment plus this now.
Exactly. It's not saying, that was our first, since we read through it, our first thought was kind of like, oh, well, that's not enough for a down payment. Mm-hmm. But it's enough maybe to get people to a point where it is enough what they have plus this, or just to help with other people. Maybe it means you buy a house that needs some work, and you're able to, in essence, because they're kicking in that 15K, keep a little more cash to do the work and make it livable for you.
Right.
Do the upgrades or improvements that are needed before you move in. Depending on when
The
the
other thing
money
too
flows.
is, if you are in Los Angeles and you don't have the big down payment, maybe you look a little bit out of your zone that you've been looking in. There are more affordable areas with a drive.
For sure, there are. Yeah. Yeah, and nowadays it's every person finds their comfort zone in reality. But if you do have cash, the rates are so low that most financial advisors will suggest, if you can hit that 20% down payment, this still kicks in, I would imagine, above that. Then great, you're eliminating all potential fees. But if you're anything less than 20, you're probably going to have mortgage insurance, you're going to have some additional costs. And most financial advisors will say, with these low rates, you're better off keeping more cash and financing a larger portion if you're comfortable with the payment.
Got it. Something that has come along our way is we have a listing, and a buyer came to us with an offer that was from the VA, and it was no down payment.
Right.
So, bit of a Hail Mary, but
yeah. It's funny because the call was, hey, I'm about to, literally the agent called me and was saying, I'm going to throw up a Hail Mary here.
Oh, she said that.
But I got to ask, otherwise I wouldn't even want to, it's the first question before we even submit anything, because they know it's hard on a low down or no down, which often a VA is no down.
All right, we've got VA, we've got FHA, that can work in some places. We also talked about certain city, state employees, and maybe even private companies that offer certain programs for down payments.
Sure. There used to be teacher programs, city, county. There were police and fire programs, down payment assistance. A lot of our core workers in the city, there are programs for down payment assistance. Unfortunately, a lot of them are not buying in the city these days, but it's out there.
Yeah. Well, you're reminding me. So, for instance, my sister-in-law, both are at County USC Hospital, and they have a program that I think is a 2-mile radius around the hospital. They will offer assistance. El Sereno used to not be as attractive, but gee, it's starting to look pretty attractive now. So
El Sereno's going to be 20% USC. So you just keep expanding, man. It's amazing.
Yeah. Big footprint now.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else on this one?
No, I think we're good. We hope to have more in the future as conversations progress.
Okay, and the other one, I think you were on the webinar, is inspiring to you. Let me see if I got it here. Hold on. Let's see. Bear with. Here it is. Bipartisan Policy Center. Again, Yahoo. Thanks, Yahoo. But you attended a webinar. So the headline here is Creative Solutions for Building Wealth for Future Generations. What'd you get inspired on here?
Gosh, man, it was a real conversation about creating policies that are more
bipartisan.
Yes, creating policies that are more equalizing in our society. I can't imagine there's anybody who disagrees with this, but there's a lot of things I can't imagine. Doesn't mean they don't exist. But people who start out life with less money, with less economic opportunity, that might be in denser neighborhoods with higher crime, they're at such a disadvantage to even, they're not even on an equal playing field. Not to mention, the ability to get ahead. Their focus becomes more about survival than growth. And it's a very hard cycle to break once you've perceived life that way, to get out of that mindset and to actually just have opportunities to grow beyond it. It can take easily 10 times or more effort if you even have the opportunity to move beyond it to equalize things. So this was Conversations, and Cory Booker was one of the speakers early on. There were many other economists and people who were studying how to equalize things. And often it's hard to do it with existing people who have already gone down this path. But they're talking about that. But they're also talking about, people coming into the world and creating opportunities where when it's time to leave home, there'll be some money invested in each individual, each American citizen when they're young, so that money can grow and they can utilize it for college, for to move out of the house, to get their own place, for bigger life events that so many people just can't take advantage of because they don't have the opportunity to do it. And that gives people grander experiences, changes their perception of life, helps them connect to the world better. And gosh, man, I truly was just inspired to hear these people and believing, because look, in the 40 years, maybe 30 that I've paid attention to politics and opportunities, it's just not how the conversation has gone. The conversation is always about tax breaks, smaller government, and whether you were on that side or not, that's the way everything has moved.
Well, the number that got me was just, as you just said, the passing of debt onto our future. Every child born in America now is inheriting $90,000 in debt.
That was the estimation they provided. Right. So you're starting in the hole. And I always equate it to, again, if you're spending all your time trying to get out of a hole, you have absolutely no opportunity to move forward, to climb the ladder. It's just getting out of the hole. And then doing everything you can to make sure you don't fall back in the hole. Forget even climbing a ladder and moving forward. And there are a lot of people in our country that live their entire life that way. And changing that perception of life and creating opportunities, which I think as a very wealthy country, we have the opportunity to do if it's done in the right way, would change our culture. It would be amazing.
All right.
Right.
Well, great, man. So all of this, excuse me, is a silver lining. We'll see how it pans out. But yeah, there's some hope. There we go.
Right. So now you're going to see me flip here.
Oh, yeah, please. Here we go.
Sure. So here's my small rant. Agree or not, we all have our opinions. This is an opinion show. I personally have been able to move into the middle class, not specifically because of higher education, but because of a little bit of grit, taking some chances, and being fair. And I feel that too much of our left policy, the socialist components of what's out there now, are not only targeting those uber wealthy, which I do think have too many resources and too much, but they're pulling the middle down. And I am one of those people that's happening to, and I'm just kind of enraged at our politicians that are doing this. So there's a vote tomorrow on the Housing Committee in Los Angeles that's basically has talking about that a 3% increase annually is too much for rent, and they want to reduce that to 60% of CPI. And really, my experience has been the majority of politicians in Los Angeles, and it seems like a reasonable amount in California, I can only think they don't care, because it's pretty obvious costs of managing and maintaining properties have gone up, 5% or more, and in many cases more. And that's just supposed to be, absorbed, and then lesser increases. Pandemic has hit small, probably all rental owners, but particularly small mom and pop owners in a big way. And rents have been frozen for over a year. They're going to be frozen, and this is something for both landlords and tenants to understand, because my sister got a notice for a rent increase in June, and I went, whoa, wait a second. And this is a big building. People trying to cram things down their throat for people who don't know. This is where
Probably a big property management firm.
exactly. And there are bad players in all areas, okay? But I went back and found the exact language as it's written in the LA housing or from LA. And it basically says rents cannot rise until 1 year after the emergency status is lifted. 1 year after. The emergency status has not been lifted. And my guess is that it might not be lifted this year at all.
Right.
So, and then another year after that. So we're talking probably 3 years with no rent increases at all for landlords as inflation is rising tremendously. And now, what type of conversation is this housing committee having? They're trying to figure out how, in a year and a half from now, how you can increase it even less than what you can increase it now at 3%. It's wrong. I am completely empathetic, and rents are too high in relation to income, but it's a problem that we've all created. It's a problem we all need to solve, and I want it solved, and I want to do my part. But to isolate the people who have sacrificed for as long as they have to own property and just stick it all on them just makes me angry.
Yeah.
So there's my rant.
Well, again, it's what America was built on originally, I thought. But yeah, we've changed, haven't we?
Yeah.
It's weird.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, that wasn't too bad, Darren. I can handle
I minimized it, you know. I didn't let it all out.
that. All right.